In 20 minutes, a person who has gotten an injury, let's say to the thigh, a serious injury which is leading to severe bleeding, this person will either have bled out or gone into shock by the time you're getting there. Exactly, because people can bleed to death in as fast as 3 to 5 minutes in very severe cases. Our approach is taking a slightly different turn, whereby we are now targeting the people in the community who have zero to very little medical training. So the approach we are taking is we want to train 2,025 people for free this year alone. And always ask yourself, how as a road user can I be able to contribute to road safety? When you're leaving your compound or wherever you are to get onto the road, do you have a first aid kit? Have you checked your tire pressures, for example?
I'm Vivian Boaz, and this is the EHS Unplugged podcast, the show where we share tips on home and workplace safety, environmental sustainability, and health and wellness tips. Join us as we explore these topics with industry experts and learn to create a safer and healthier world.
Hi guys, my name is Vivian Boaz, and welcome back to another episode of the EHS Unplugged podcast. Now guys, you've seen the statistics from NTSA. Those numbers are staggering. But what if I told you that some of these accidents on Kenyan roads are actually preventable? Joining us today is a pioneer in this area, someone who is actually doing something to ensure that you make it home alive. Or if you're involved in a road accident, that you make it to the hospital. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Vivian. My name is William Kimanzi. By profession, I'm an entry-level paramedic, that is an EMT. EMT means Emergency Medical Technician. But I train first aid. I'm a first aid instructor. And currently I'm leading the team at the QuickFix Learning Hub, which I hope I'll be able to tell you more about.
Yeah. I mean, we've heard so much about QuickFix.
Yeah.
We've seen you guys on social media, some of the initiatives that you've taken on over the years. Tell us more about that. I really want to understand the background of this initiative. What led you on this path?
So the QuickFix is a personal mission to me. I practiced as an EMT in Kenyan Nairobi and Garissa, all in Kenya, from 2020 during COVID up to late 2023. And there were lots of situations whereby we responded to emergencies, and we actually realized that cases had occurred where people died, but if there was someone with that patient who knew what to do, these deaths could have been avoided or they could have been prevented. And these stemmed from cases such as choking in infants less than 5. I lost a kid due to choking, and I've always felt if the mom knew what to do, the mom had basic first aid skills, they would probably have saved that life as we tried to navigate the crazy Nairobi traffic to get to where this parent was. Issues like cardiac arrest, when your heart stops, you have about 10 minutes for you to receive CPR and basically stay alive until advanced help is available. But in most cases, an ambulance will rarely get to where you are in 10 minutes. So we encountered cases whereby we felt if the people who are around knew how to perform CPR, they would probably have given this person a better chance of survival before the paramedics got to where this person was. So we figured, how then would we be able to bridge this gap that we are having? And the solution was by beginning something that is going to already complement the already existing companies and programs, because we did not start the QuickFix because there's a shortage of training institutions in Kenya. There are lots of training companies which are doing an awesome job. But the problem comes in that our curriculum is not relevant to our setup in most instances. And this is quite clear even from the first aid presentations that we have during our trainings. I mean, you'll see pictures which are depicting scenarios which have occurred in different countries, and sometimes it's so hard for you to relate. Even the videos which are being played, sometimes you're not even able to get the English. So through the QuickFix, we are able to tailor-make a curriculum which is based on our local scenarios, and we try to align it to the best scientific practices which are available globally. And we try to look at, if you're saying that someone is bleeding, how then can we be able to look at the locally available resources and use them to assist this person who is bleeding as per our local setup? The other issue was the cost. First aid courses are quite expensive in Kenya. Right now, to get a first aid certificate, that would set you back about 3,000, 6,000 Kenyan shillings. And that's quite high, because unless your company, the company or the organization that you're working for, has sponsored you to attend that course, or unless you really need that certification for you to get a job promotion or for you to stay on a job, you'll rarely part with this money. And we can't simply sit back and say we are going to lock out people who are not able to attend this training. Right now, we are in the age of media. We are in the age of using minimal resources to have maximum impact. And that is what the QuickFix started building on. So we've been able to have first aid information on our website for free. If you go to www.thequickfix.org, you're able to get first aid content on different topics listed alphabetically from A to Z, both in English and Swahili. We are also providing webinars. We do webinars every month. We call them kikao. Kikao in English, in Swahili. Kikao is a Swahili word which means a sitting or a meeting, basically. Yeah, and during our kikao sessions, we just try to have discussions and conversations like we are doing now. We've had one on burns, we've done asthmatic attacks, we've done seizures, conversions, and epilepsy. We've done diabetic emergencies, what to do when the sugars go high and when they go low. And we've even done a bleeding control episode whereby we just look at, depending on our setup, what are the most workable ways that can help us keep people alive before the ambulances arrive.
So you've mentioned you've worked in Garissa and parts of Nairobi County, and just working in those areas, I mean, how are you able to identify the need for this particular service you're offering?
Okay, so there is, I'll answer that in two parts, because there is a need for both emergency medical services in those communities we've mentioned, basically all through Kenya. And there is also a need for first aid services. And the thing is, these two aspects complement each other because it's all part of pre-hospital care. Think of a situation whereby an incident happens, like right here in the studio, and we are having a situation whereby we need to refer this person to the facility. Say someone goes into cardiac arrest, which I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but someone goes into cardiac arrest in the studio. In that case, you'd need somebody who knows how to do CPR to keep this person alive. You'll need someone who knows an ambulance contact, whether Red Cross or the E+, St. John, Rescue, AMREF Air, whichever it is. You'll need someone who knows how to call an ambulance and someone who has an emergency contact. And this ambulance will have to come to where you are and evacuate you to a facility to give you a better chance of survival. So that is a situation which starts off with a single individual, but it eventually ends up being part of a bigger system. So there is a very big need for both services. For the emergency medical services, it has been a bit clearer. But for first aid, there has always been this assumption that it can never be you, that you might never need first aid services, and that first aid is basically for a select number of individuals in the society. But I'll take you to a case we had in Garissa, because in Garissa we dealt with a lot of cases of delivery out of the hospital. And the way the county is set up, we had to do evacuations for hundreds of kilometers before we could get to the patient, and again cover other hundreds of kilometers to get them to a proper facility. So we had a case whereby we were having delivery, an expectant mother. And the situation was that this expectant mother had gone into labor preterm, so before the 36 to 42 weeks had lapsed. So this was a baby who had come before their time. And the bigger issue was, as much as there are the midwives in the communities,
yeah.
sometimes it gets really, really tough, because in this situation, the umbilical cord came out before the infant's head. And it's not a case of coiling. It's a case whereby you can see, cool, this is the umbilical cord, but the baby is not yet out. And at that moment, we are about 200 kilometers from where this mother is. The mother is not able to get to their nearest facility. I happened to be there in a season when it was heavily raining. Actually, it was flooding in Garissa at that moment when I was there. And the person who ended up saving this mother was a medical student from KMTC who was home for a reason which was not able to get clearly because school was in session, but they were home. And this medical student was the one who helped the mother to safely be able to reduce the incident from becoming worse before we could get there. So I've always thought about those situations and always tried to figure out, okay, what would have happened if there was no one in close range who knew what to do? Again, I talk about cardiac arrest a lot because it's a situation which we can very easily identify with as Kenyans. We've had lots of prominent people who ideally have very good insurance covers. They have access to some of the best doctors in the country and abroad. But when their heart stops, no one in their security team knows how to perform CPR, which is honestly quite a shame. No one in the family, no one close to them knows how to or is willing to perform CPR to keep them alive until at least this very good ambulance that you've called for arrives. And in most cases, we lose lots of people simply because we trust too much in other facilities or in other factors rather than putting trust in our own environment. Yeah, so not having first aid skills has really cost people a lot. And that is what I would have identified as the need to do what we are doing.
Yeah. So now that you've identified the need, I mean, NTSA, if you look at the statistics, it's staggering, right?
Yeah.
So already we've known that it's a severe bleeding that is contributing to a majority of these deaths. So where is the gap? Why is no one stepping in other than you coming in with this initiative?
Right. So it's good that you've brought in NTSA because last year, 2024, they gave statistics 4,748 lives lost on Kenyan roads that year alone. And definitely there's the issue of underreporting, which we are not going to get into. But the number is definitely much, much higher. And in majority of these cases, the leading cause of preventable deaths has always been severe bleeding. It's not the pain that's going to kill you. It's not the anxiety that's going to kill you. It's going to be the uncontrolled bleeding. And the average response time in Kenya for ambulances, and I'm hoping that someday you'll have guys from the EMS, the guys who run the EMS agencies on your podcast. But the average response time, most agencies put it at 15 to 20 minutes.
Really?
Minimum. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. So 15 to 20, that's the official duration we have from most of the agencies. And even if you're going to pick 20 minutes, for example, in 20 minutes, a person who has gotten an injury, let's say to the thigh, a serious injury which is leading to severe bleeding, this person will either have bled out or gone into shock by the time you're getting there. Exactly, because people can bleed to death in as fast as 3 to 5 minutes in very severe cases. And the ambulance is not going to be there in those 3 to 5 minutes, in those 10 minutes, in those 15 minutes. So our best chance of survival is now left to the bystander. This person on the street where the incident has occurred who has zero or very little medical training. The other drivers on the road, the responsibility is now up to them. And the person who actually started all this, the initiative which we are talking about, said the fate of any person who has been wounded lies in the hands of the person who's going to place the first bandage.
Yes.
So your fate is going to lie in the hands of that bystander who gives you assistance first, not even in the hands of the surgeon or in the hands of the EMTs or the paramedics, but in the hands of the person who applies the first bandage. So if we can be able to equip the bystanders themselves, the community, basically everyone, with not just the skills on how to control bleeding, but also the willingness to act. Because people might have the skills, you might have the training, but there's that bystander effect whereby you feel that, yes, I have this training, but my colleague also has this training. Why can't they do this? Why can't they assist? So if you are able to equip them with the training and the skills and empower them with the willingness to act, then we'll be able to meet some of these gaps. And the gaps are huge.
Yeah.
I mean, moving from policy to things like the human errors, driving while intoxicated, operating a machine under the influence when you're exhausted, failure to do your annual medical checks, failure by even the driving institutions to offer first aid training during their driving classes, and so forth. So I feel it's a multi-sectoral issue.
Yeah. In the trainings that you do, I mean, usually when you do a root cause analysis, one of the things that comes up is either that person was driving under fatigue, fatigue driving, as you've mentioned, under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So when you're doing your trainings, are these some of the topics you cover? Because when you look at fatigue driving, most drivers do not know, after driving, maybe say for 2 to 4 hours, you need to take a break.
Yeah.
Most of us, we don't do that. Either because you're thinking, my body's still okay, my body's not telling me to take a break. So is that something you focus on in your trainings?
Yes, we do. We have a course called Occupational First Aid or First Aid at Work, which the Ministry of Labour under DOSH has given very good guidelines on what is covered. And part of it includes the physical and mental well-being of the worker. Right. And this focuses even on stress management. It focuses on doing a self-assessment on yourself and looking at how fit are you for the task that you're going to perform. If you're handling a machine, you need to be at 100%. You don't need any distraction. So how do you eliminate some of the hazards, basically, which might cause an incident or a disaster to occur? So we talk to workers, we talk to different people about factors that would predispose them to have an impaired judgment, and even try to look at options. Because, for example, you sometimes walk into companies and you realize that what you are suggesting is going to involve really changing the company culture. And you realize that, this is not really a fight that you want to get into. But you can make gradual suggestions to the management. Things like shift changes. The shifts are maybe becoming too long. How do we still have the same level of productivity, but kind of make adjustments on these shifts? So we talk to the workers themselves, and we also talk to the management to look at how best can we be able to find an nexus that will improve the general situation in the country.
You mentioned the issue of money.
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about bystanders, offering free training on first aid is okay, right? Because maybe they can't afford the 6,000 that Red Cross would charge, right? But look at the average drivers or just the regular drivers.
Yeah.
If you can be able to afford a car, can't you also be able to afford, to pay 6,000 for first aid training?
You would if it would be policy.
I mean, we say this all the time, but safety starts with you. So if you're buying a car and then you're going onto these Kenyan roads, you've seen the craziness on these roads.
Yep.
So you know that you might be a good driver, but you don't know about the other driver, right? So why not protect yourself, right? Because sometimes when an accident happens, it could be the driver behind you that offers the first aid, right?
Exactly.
So if this person is not equipped with any first aid training, what happens?
Well, the worst happens, unfortunately. And I take it back to, there's this two words I try to avoid: individual responsibility, because we never take it. Unfortunately, we never take individual responsibility in most of the things that we do. So rarely will a person who's getting on the road see the need to take a first aid class.
Yeah, but they should.
I agree with you, because even for young mothers, we tell young mothers, the nannies, the elder children, hi, come to our premises. Let's have an hour. Let's talk about safety for infants and kids. But guys rarely do, because you believe this is going to happen to a neighbor's child, but never my child. And even on the road, you believe that I am very much well protected. An accident cannot happen, can never be me, and all that. So since it's going to take a battle for us to individually see the need to take a first aid course or just learn a few first aid basics, I feel it's time we started stemming this from the root, from the driving schools. Every driving institution should have a curriculum that includes first aid training, even if it's going to be a stop the bleed training. I mean, that's the easiest way, so that as you're given a license to get onto the road, you're also given some encouragement to save lives if need be. And apart from that, it also has to go to the implementation of these policies that are going to be created. I know there is a vague law, sorry, I'm calling it vague, but there's a law which says, or some regulation, I don't know, which says that every vehicle should have a first aid kit. Should be there if it is in there. Every personal vehicle, every PSV, public service vehicle on the road should have a first aid kit. But whoever does this checking, I've never heard a traffic police officer asking for a first aid kit.
But the question is, if they were to inspect a first aid kit,
yes,
what would they be looking for? Are they even trained on that? I keep thinking about that because if you go to a workplace, it's really a requirement. Yeah. So where I used to work, you have all these vehicles, going onto the road, transporting employees from one point to another, right? One of the things you look at in terms of vehicle compliance is the first aid kit, right? Is it fully stocked? Does it have all those, the quantities? Have they met, right? Yeah. So for me, I know how to inspect that. So a personal vehicle, and you meet this traffic police on the road, are they trained on first aid, first aid box inspections?
Even the training has to come from them. They have to be trained in first aid. Exactly. I've seen lots of articles saying that the police officers are trained. I don't know how true that is. Could be, might not be. But one thing I must applaud the traffic police officers is they are always the first ones to call for an ambulance. That's a tick. But nothing is rarely ever done between the time that the ambulance is called to the time that the ambulance is going to get to where they are. So if we could have policies which are in place, that one, each vehicle on Kenyan roads should have a first aid kit. This first aid kit should be standardized, sio ile unanunua kwa garage, which you'll find even a condom.
The red one, no good.
Yes, the small red box, but rarely does it have lots of useful equipment that can assist you. So let's look at standardization. What type of kits are you supposed to have? If it's a 33-seater minibus, for example, what is the size of the first aid kit that is there? Because we are not going to have the same size of first aid kit in a 33-seater as a 5-seater personal vehicle. Should be different. There needs to be a bit of standards. So I'd say there's a lot that needs to be done, but also there's a lot of goodwill, because we'll come have these discussions, but if there is no goodwill from even the government agencies, because at the end of the day, I believe the buck stops with the government either way.
Usually I'm asked, what are you doing about it?
What you're doing about it?
No. I mean, Kenyans, we tend to complain until someone comes and asks you, what are you doing about this issue? What exactly have you done? Right? And you're a pioneer in this area. You're actually doing something about it. You identified a need and you're trying to close that gap. Yeah. So I know it's a very challenging area, right? So some of the challenges that you've encountered. How many years have you been in business, by the way?
As the QuickFix or individually?
QuickFix.
QuickFix started in 2023. Yeah, just right after I left active practice.
And the Stop the Bleed initiative?
So Stop the Bleed is actually a global campaign. that was started back in the late 2010s in the US. It was in response to the rampant school shootings. Yeah, and it's a course that is based on the lessons that the US military and the Department of Defense learned from Afghanistan and Iraq on bleeding control, what works and how best it would be able to work. So they designed a course that would be able to teach the public, basically anyone, little to no medical training on what they can be able to do before help arrives. And we are not the first company in Kenya to replicate the Stop the Bleed program. We got licensed, but we realized that there are already other organizations, about 4 or 5, who have been licensed to do the same, but the uptake has been low. Few people have been taking these classes, or you realize that they have been targeting the first responders. But our approach is taking a slightly different turn, whereby we are now targeting the people in the community who have 0 to very little medical training. So the approach we are taking is we want to train 2025 people for free this year alone. And we are targeting groups, corporates, CBOs, circles, chamas, any group that has a common agenda. We are targeting them because we realized it's difficult to bring people together and invite them for an open for all first aid session. But if we have a group that already knows they have a common purpose and a common objective, it's easier to talk to them in that 1 hour on why bleeding control is important, why we are losing so many deaths due to preventable causes in which we could have assisted. And then we are able to just teach them the basics on this bleeding control. And we even take them through practice sessions. So we have our instructors demonstrate, and we have our return demonstrations from the participants. So we are just trying to pick up from where the other organizations have left or what they are doing. And it's an initiative which is, I think we call it bold, because doing free trainings I know a lot of individuals who run companies looking at this podcast and wondering, okay, what is the catch? And you can't be so good that you're doing free trainings. But I mean, this has to be done. And I'm hoping if the QuickFix does not succeed in the Stop the Bleed Kenya initiative, I'm hoping that the other organizations who are doing something similar will have better chances of success.
No, I think at some point, before this year ends, you're going to get sponsorship for this. But before we go to that, because I want us to talk about that, the support that you need, your approach is completely different from other mainstream training institutions.
Yes.
So as the uptake increased, because you talked about uptake being low because of the approach, they were focusing on the corporates and the formal workplaces. So for your case, now that the approach is a bit different, has the uptake increased?
Surprisingly, yes, it has.
Oh.
Yeah, because I'm a huge believer in data-driven interventions, and we've been able to really integrate that at the QuickFix because we are. I tell my team that we need to be very brutally honest with ourselves and see what's been working and what hasn't been working. Because if you begin a training institution and replicate what the other organizations are doing, and I'll try my best not to name drop any organization in this podcast, but if you start a company and simply do what the other people in the industry are doing, then it would have been much easier to join them. I mean, you would have used less resources. But the approach we are taking is filling in the gaps that these other companies collectively are not meeting. So we are not competing with them, but rather complementing their efforts. So we've seen an increased uptake because the moment you teach a bleeding control session to one group, they gain an interest. You're now able to bring them up to the environment whereby you're talking about why now general safety is important, why we even need to do safety drills, why we even need to do annual refreshers, why we even need to engage in first aid competitions and just look at how well prepared their teams are, how often they need to be restocking their first aid kits, why they need to have maybe weekly safety sessions, safety moments, or even monthly ones, and the safety talk. So I am confident that we are building slowly though, but we are building a culture of safety, not only in the Kenyan workplaces, but also in the Kenyan communities.
Yeah. I mean, you're making it sound so easy, but I know it's not. I mean, I run a podcast.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But so tell us the challenges, because I know there are.
Well, challenges, of course, being a startup, a Kenyan startup. The challenges have always been, of course, hugely financial, because we are not venture backed or NGO sponsored. We are not having any funding from anywhere. I think these are just been me and the team of instructors that we are working with. And most of our instructors work on a CSR basis. So we are just like-minded individuals who volunteer our time. And through that, we've really been able to cut on some of the expenses, because we only focus on what is important, or the expenses that we really feel we cannot do without. So we've been doing a lot of bootstrapping, whereby, yes, I'm here today, but I just need to make it to next week. After next week, I'll figure out how to make it to the other week. And we've also had some very good sponsors come on board specifically for this initiative. We have Road Safety Association Kenya, who have been able to come on board and assist us with this. We have Youth Initiative Development Program, and we also have Little Cub Africa, who have been supporting us with logistics. So actually, Little Cub is really, really doing something amazing with us. What they're doing is, if we are coming to your group to train you, they are providing us with logistics to and fro, which has really saved us even in the budgeting process. Yeah, so it has been tough, yes, but it being tough does not mean that it has been impossible. We've been able to do it, and we are still going strong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to know that there are people who believe in what you're doing. And sometimes that's all you need. Someone who notices, someone who comes through for you, even in those teeny tiny ways, right? I want to take you back. We're having the World Day for Safety and Health in April. One of the things they're doing is competitions around health and safety. Is that something you're participating in, or you're assisting companies, to put together competitions around that?
Previously, I got the privilege to serve as the National First Aid Competitions Judge for the Kenya Red Cross Society in 2019, 2021, 22, and 23.
I'm tempted to ask, how old are you? But anyway, that's
old enough. I think I set off to doing whatever I'm doing just right after high school. Yeah, so that's a whole different story, which we'll need a whole other episode about. Yeah, but I did that for that duration. But I've never taken part. I haven't taken part yet in the DOSH competition, but I'd really be interested in seeing how the procedure is, because I've also been lucky enough to work with winning teams like Safaricom PLC and Unga Limited.
For the DOSH event?
For general first aid training competition preparation. Yeah, so I've been able to take the Unga team and the Safaricom team, and also Gulf Bank back in 2019. Yeah, so it's something that I am always really, really looking forward to taking part in, because it's through such events that we are able to pick up the gaps. We are able to know this year there have been workplace incidences, and according to the data, this is the most common type of emergency that has been occurring in the workplace. And then through that, we are able to go back with our team, back to the drawing board, and look at how then do we plug in this gap and see how we can be able to make a change, so that next year we are no longer talking about the same issues that we are talking about this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've said you're very big on data.
Yeah.
I really want to know what your reach is like. How many communities, roughly, have you been able to reach through this Stop the Bleed initiative?
Right. So since our inception, we've been able to do 70 so far.
Wow.
And this 70 is from 2 sessions, because each session we try to keep a maximum of 30 people because we go with an instructor ratio of 1 instructor to 7 participants. We are trying to, as much as it is a free program, we are trying to keep the quality control in check as much as we can. So we are really working with the ratios. And so far, we've only been able to train 70 from 2 sessions. We just recently launched, but we are still very much on for our goal on the 2025. Of course, we have trained much more people, many more people through our social media interactions and engagements, but we have not really been able to set up a matrix that can determine the numbers that we've reached in regards to our social media content and our online webinars. But for this year, for the initiative, for the physical trainings that we've done, about 70 people.
There's something you mentioned that really caught my attention, because personally, I'm very big on telling African OSH stories, right? When you look at the first aid trainings, I've undergone so many. The pictorials that they use. Sorry to say this to the audience, but it's usually of white people, right? And it's very hard to relate. If I share this training materials with, say, my child, they won't be able to relate, right? Even the instructors in these videos are not people I see on a daily basis. And there's something you mentioned you're doing around that. You are trying to change, I don't know, you're doing it through, did you say animations?
We already did that. I did that late 2023. I got an opportunity to lead a project for Emergency Medicine Kenya Foundation, EMKF, whereby we were equipping community health promoters with first aid skills, the CHPs and the CHAs and the national and county governments. We were equipping them with basic first aid skills. So through the project, we were able to create a series of videos, over 50 videos in Swahili, using local actors. So actors that you see on your televisions, we were able to get some of them together, and we did the scripting, and we were able to create videos in Swahili language. So right now, if you go to YouTube, the EMKF channel, I'm no longer working with them, but if you go to the EMKF channel, there are some videos that we are able to put out, ranging from different issues like a fever in babies. We are able to have that in Swahili. The video is very well done, professional production, and it shows you even a model of a baby when they have a fever. It's a demo, and it's accompanied by even subtitles. So we've been able to do that. And for the quick fix, we've done first aid resource materials in both English and Swahili. So on our website, if you check the resources section, you'll be able to check first aid content on all topics from A to Z, both in English and in Swahili. And even for the posters that we try to put out on a daily or weekly basis, we have now been doing both English and Swahili. For example, we have a poster in English for what to do if somebody is convulsing, they have a seizure and they're convulsing. And we've also done the same in Swahili, so that whoever is not proficient in English can be able to get the same information in Swahili.
I wonder, how do you say convulsing in Kiswahili?
Kufitika.
Kufitika. Wait. Oh, that's a thing. Kufitika.
Kufitika, it's actually a thing. It's an actual thing.
Kufitika. So how do you say stop convulsing?
Cool. Okay, stop. Kukomesha
kufitika.
But now the interesting thing with Swahili is if you put it in a sentence, you'll have to adjust the words kidogo. So the word by word translation might not really work, but if you put it in context, you have a more wholesome translation.
Because you know why? Because I think this is a challenge, because the whole curriculum on first aid, it's whoever came up with it in their heads were thinking in English, right?
Yes.
So if you try to translate this into Kiswahili, some of it is lost in translation, right?
Yes.
So how do you compensate for that? Because I feel like, that's why I'm asking you what convulsing means in Kiswahili. Have you encountered such challenges, especially in your training?
Yes, we have. And what we've been doing is there are some words which we've just been leaving as they are. For example, something like CPR. it would be quite difficult for you to translate it to Swahili and still have it making sense. The explanation in Swahili will make sense, but the word itself, you might just have to leave it as CPR so that anybody knows inaitwa CPR regardless of the language. So
There's
it
no-
becomes much easier.
But if you were to try CPR in Kiswahili,
Hey, CPR is cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So you'd say ufufuaji wa roho na mapafu.
but that sounds fine, no?
Yeah, sounds fine. But again, even in Kenya, our Swahili is not as good. Kuna mtu atashangaa mapafu ni nini?
Oh no, don't say that, because Tanzanians will be on our case. They think they have the best Kiswahili.
We are always ready for the Twitter war. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? We learn every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's I'm happy to know that that's a challenge you're having and you're addressing it, because I'm also thinking if this becomes a success, right? Especially the resources that you've been able to put together in Kiswahili, then we're having workplaces where not everyone is conversant with English. So if there's an employer who wants to buy some of these training materials from you, do you sell them?
At the moment, we are not selling the resource material. What we are selling are the courses. For example, if your workplace wants to do a first aid at work course or you want to do just a basic first aid course, what we call an awareness course, not for compliance, we are able to have a discussion, depending, of course, on the number and the different metrics, and arrive at a cost which works well for you. Yeah, but for the resource materials, they are available for free. But if companies would like to develop, because we've had different organizations want to develop safety protocols in Swahili, they want to develop posters in Swahili, we are able to do that as part of our consultancy.
Yeah, that's good to know, because sometimes you work with people who are not conversant with English, and then you're required to convey OSH information in Kiswahili.
Exactly. And even not even the language alone. I feel there has been a lot of neglect when it comes to inclusivity in OSH.
It's true. In fact, our last episode was looking at inclusive OSH in the workplace, right? Because that episode was focusing around people with hearing impairment.
Yes.
Do we think about them when you're putting together these OSH procedures, policies?
Yes, we do. Actually, that was a lovely episode. It was nice seeing my senior Ken. And the thing is, yes, we are working on putting first aid knowledge out there to the deaf and hard of hearing and the hearing impaired. And we are looking forward to working with Deaf Health Kenya. Deaf Health Kenya is also a very interesting group. I actually love what they do, because for a very long time, there has been an issue. There have been challenges with the hearing impaired and the deaf accessing medical services in medical facilities, because they are not translators and they might not be able to fully express themselves. Actually, just a quick sidebar, there was an incident whereby a lady got sexually assaulted, and when they went to the facility, they could not. This was a case which happened in Nakuru in 2024. This is a case where when this lady went to the facility, she could not clearly express herself. So the healthcare providers did not understand what was going on. And then, of course, there is the stigma and all. And you realize that the time this person has proper access to someone who can understand her, even the precautions that they should have taken for the legal side of the assault have not been taken. Yeah, so we are working with different groups which are big on inclusivity to try and get this information out there to as many people as possible. And at the Quick Fix, we believe in the power of strategic partnerships. So with having different partners on board, we are able to now at least put these ideas out there to everyone and ensure that this information reaches as many people as possible.
See, there's this thing I love taking kids through. When I grow up, I want to be a podcaster. And I am. I'm in a studio today, right? For you, has this always been the dream?
Never in a million years have I ever thought I'd do anything medical. And it's funny because began off with a totally different career. I totally kicked off doing something totally different, which I'll be able to talk about another day.
No, we wanna hear because if you listen to most of the guests we have in studio, they don't set out to be OSH professionals.
Yeah.
They don't set out to be, EMTs or first aiders, right? But they end up in those fields.
Yeah.
Usually it's just something along the way that, just changes their trajectory from maybe say engineering straight to OSH.
Yeah.
These are stories. I really want to know, please.
Okay. So throughout my high school career, because I won't lie that I knew what I wanted to do when I was in primary school.
No one
I had
does.
no clear idea. But throughout high school, I figured I wanted to become a lawyer. And I completed my high school and got accepted into law school. So I went to the university to study law. Did law for my first year. Awesome experience. Second year, awesome experience. Did some moot court. And it was awesome. But that year, for the year, I figured, okay, this is not as challenging as I want it to be. It is not as interesting as I want it to be. And then I interacted with different people, different situations. And then an opportunity just came up whereby I was volunteering back home where I'm from. I'm from Kitui County. So I was volunteering with the Red Cross team at Kitui. And then I got an opportunity to attend a first aid class. And while attending the first aid class, I figured, okay, why am I always looking for a challenge? This looks fun and this looks impactful. Why don't I do this? And one of the gentlemen was very gracious enough to show me the right way. And I picked it up. So came to Nairobi, started volunteering at the national level, got into the training institution, started doing trainings, got more comfortable. I won't say I got good at it. I say I got more comfortable at it and started doing trainings. And then I realized that this is also a field which I can really, really try to make an impact in. And I feel this is a niche and it's something that I can really be able to get into. So I went and did my EMT with the Kenya Council of Emergency Medical Technicians, a very awesome professional body. And after that, I now started practicing with E+, from COVID time. And I was also teaching while at the same time practicing. So teaching first aid. And it was an awesome experience because I could be able to relate what I'm seeing on the field with what I am training the participant. And I was able to even look at what is on the books and challenge it because I believe a lot in challenging information and trying to bring it to the context of the different participants. So I got into that and then I started my nursing.
Wait, so
to do my nursing degree.
Did you drop out of school? Law school, I mean. Or did you complete?
No. I do not like to use the word dropped out, but yes, I did.
Retracted.
No, that's totally okay.
So at which level? Was it
in my fourth year?
In your fourth year?
Yes.
But you're almost there.
I know, just 2 semesters and then go do my diploma at the School of Law and would have been an advocate, but what would have been the end game? Yeah, because actually, the guys that I was in school with right now are practicing advocates. Some of them recently got admitted to the bar. I'm really, really happy for them. But we can't all become lawyers. That's one thing. And the best part is it's already something I did. And I'm confident it's something that I can do again, even if it's going to be after 5-10 years. So it's still a field that I have an interest in because we also have medical law, health and medical law, whereby there is really no clear law in Kenya that protects first aiders when they're offering first aid. We talk about Good Samaritan laws, but they sound good and they look good on paper. But when the actual legal system is involved, becomes something quite different. So maybe it's something I'll revisit. I believe I still have a lot of days ahead.
I mean, you look happy. So clearly this was a good decision.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was.
So you're doing well. You're having a positive impact on Kenyan societies, right? Society as a whole. What kind of advice would you give? Really, before we go to that, I really want to know if someone wanted to volunteer with QuickFix.
Yes.
What's the procedure? How do they go about it?
You can simply drop us a call, a message. We are on almost all social media platforms. You can call us on 0707079192. A very simple number. Trust me, I did not bribe anyone at Safaricom to get the number. You can check out our website, www.thequickfix.org. And we have all our communication channels there. You can reach out to us. All you need to do is find out what you really want us to do together. Because it's impossible for you to just come in as a general volunteer and tell us to give you something to do. What we do is come tell us what you are able to do, and then we shall build on it and see how we can align it and make an impact in first aid.
So clearly, it's not a good idea to be on Kenyan roads, right? I mean, we've seen the statistics, the cases you've dealt with. So anyone who's making the decision to be on a Kenyan road today, tomorrow, next year, what advice would you give them?
Two things. One might sound harsh, but our roads are not the best, unfortunately. Two, always remember that whatever vehicle you are using, chances are it was built by the lowest bidder. So always have that in mind whenever you want to press on your gas pedal to accelerate, whenever you want to overlap, whenever you want to go beyond the designated speed limit, whenever you want to get into your vehicle drunk. Always remember that your vehicle was most likely built by the lowest bidder. So it is not the safest vessel on that vehicle, on that road rather. And then number three, I know this has been overshared, but always assume that you are the only sane person on that road. And be prepared to react in case of anything. And also extend grace. It doesn't hurt to be abusive when something wrong has happened to you on the road. You might want to find out, because this person be having a medical emergency. Did this person maybe make a sharp turn because they lost control? Is it something that happened maybe that led to this accident in case of having a one-size-fits-all approach? It's good for us to just do a quick review and always ask yourself, how as a road user can I be able to contribute to road safety? When you're leaving your compound or wherever you are to get onto the road, do you have a first aid kit? Have you checked your tire pressures, for example? Have you checked even, we only do oil checks and lubricants, but have you checked the general condition of your vehicle? Have you checked if there is maybe any loose part? Have you checked if your lights are working and all those situations? So it's still going to be the same thing that has always been said, but we need to have a different approach on how we now act on this information moving forward.
Yeah. Thank you so much for agreeing to record this episode with us. One thing I've learned is you might be a sane driver, but the person behind you or in front of you might not be, right?
Yes.
So invest in first aid. Get that first aid box in your car. It could be the difference between, you making it home alive or you being transported to a mortuary. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.